All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us on another episode of Extreme Health Radio. Super excited you are here. Super pumped to be talking with Andy Mant today. We're going to be talking about a lot of really cool subjects regarding light today. So this is going to be a great show. And it's interesting because the more study I do about light, the more I realize that it's not really about the food. And there's a lot of people that are out there touting food. And obviously food is very important. But in my opinion, in my research, light comes way before food. And there's a bunch of other things I think that come before food and diet. And but that's, what sort of sells these days. And it's easy to get people to change their diet. So let me give you the show number for today's show. This is episode 589. So we'll get the show notes and everything available if you guys want to grab those later on at extremehealthradio.com/589. We got some cool shows coming up. I want to let you guys know about that. I've got a show coming up all about the immune system and how to strengthen the immune system with a lot of different unconventional methods. So stay tuned for that. And then we have Nicholas. I always forget. I don't know how to say his name correctly because I think he's French. It's Pineal, I think. And we talked a lot about 5G, non-native EMF, electromagnetic field radiation, and how to mitigate all this stuff and what we need to do. And then we have another French woman, awesome doctor named Dr. Veronique Desagneau, I think is how you say her name. But she does a lot of work with ladies with breast cancer. And so that was a really cool show, and that's going to be coming up soon. So we're back. We're doing shows live. If you guys want to catch our shows live, you can subscribe to the Extreme Health Radio YouTube channel as well as the Extreme Health Academy Facebook page. But I want to bring on Andy Mant today, and this is going to be really cool. He is the founder of BluBlox, and you can probably see that I am wearing my BluBlox right now, and I love these things. You probably see I wear them on every show, and he's doing a lot of really cool work. So we're going to talk with him about a lot of different aspects relating to light and his company BluBlox and what they're doing and all that good stuff. So, Andy, welcome to the show, and can you hear us okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Loud and clear. It's an absolute honor to be able to talk to you on here, Justin, and sort of impart a little bit of the research that I've been doing over the last couple of years on light and health. So very much looking forward to it.
That's awesome. And you are all the way from Perth, is that right, today?
That's right. Yes. So I'm British, but I've been living in Australia for over 7 years now. Moved to basically get away from the terrible British weather. I was very surprised when I came to Australia and I saw this sort of ball of fire in the sky, and someone told me it was the sun. So I was really excited to see that. So I'm in Perth in Australia, so WA. So it's what we were just saying earlier. It's so funny, like you guys in the US are coming into your sort of Monday evening, and we're coming up to the middle of the day here in Australia. So it's on the next day, on Tuesday. So it's
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what made you go from England to Perth instead of Sydney, which seems to be the normal sort of spot for most people from England?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question. I mean, I'm a firm believer of being away from major cities. You mentioned that you're going to have Nick Pino on soon, who's a huge advocate of the dangers of 5G networks and non-native EMF. And I wanted to stay away from the major hubs. And Perth City is not even really a city. It's a very small town. I actually live about 50 kilometers away from the city as well, which is probably about 30 miles in US terminology, like right by the bush. I just wanted to be out of major cities, so I wanted to choose WA because it's very remote, very away from everything. We're probably about 20 years behind everyone else in terms of technology. We still don't even have a proper NBN internet network in Perth. So it's good, and I like the fact that it's 20 years behind technology, because I can be assured that it's probably a healthier place to live than Sydney for me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I remember hearing years ago. I have half my family's in Sydney. I'm half Australian, so I've been there a lot. And I remember years ago they were going to be the first wireless city, and they're adopting all of the Wi-Fi and all that stuff super early on, and that's cool. It's good to know, man. That's what I kind of want to do is get out in the bush. I want to get away from EMF and 5G and all that stuff. It's really a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things. It's like dieting. Once you don't really know how good you feel until you've sort of lived on one extreme and gone to the other. And I was very much living in cities back in the UK, and I was very overweight, very unhealthy. I was in and out of hospital all the time with various ailments. And since coming to Australia and being away from all these sort of technological nasties that are around, like your 5G, your blue light, green light, and learning a bit more about sort of the water we need to drink and things like that. I've never felt better, and it only takes maybe a week of travel to a major city somewhere in the world to actually start feeling really sort of confused, and the mind wobbly, and don't sleep as well. So it's crazy that that a lot of people that are really into food just say, switch this out, switch that out, and you'll be fine. I'm a firm believer of really correcting your environment first before you even start to look at food.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I think it makes sense that a lot of people focus on the food first because the supplement industry itself is just a massive industry, as well as different food and food bars and all this kind of stuff, and keto, and it's all good. But I think that, once you start learning about light environment, man, it really changes the game. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, and I'm going to get some other guests in here to talk about light and how important getting your light environment is. And I don't know, it's a transformation that has to happen in your mind to get to that understanding, right? Because we're conditioned to think it's all about food, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to look at it from a circadian perspective first of all. So you've got to look at it from a sort of natural viewpoint of every animal evolved, albeit, well, probably, let's just say sort of 95% of the animals, because you've got the deep ocean where there's no light. But as humans, we evolved under the sun, and we also evolved to work and to operate under light and dark cycles. So just to sort of give an overview on how that all works, our circadian rhythms, as they're called, are biological rhythms that control hormone release, and basically, when they're in sync, provide ultimate wellness. Now, the rhythms are basically controlled by light and dark cycles, primarily. So when we wake up in the morning, the first thing we should see is sunlight, and what that does is that hits the skin, hits the eyes, and then it's translated into the suprachiasmatic nucleus to actually tell our body to release cortisol, serotonin, sort of neurotransmitters and hormones such as those that really make us feel alert and ready for the day. So as the day draws on, ancestrally speaking, the sun will start to set. And when the sun starts to set, you'll start to see sort of, the reds and the oranges and the yellows in the sky, much like, say like a candle or fire. And then what that does is that sort of starts to trigger once that hits the eye to basically say, right, I need to now change all this serotonin that I've produced during the day into melatonin. And melatonin is a sleep hormone, which basically makes you feel sleepier, and then naturally drift off to sleep after dark. And melatonin can actually only be produced in total physiological darkness. So by that, we mean in the absence of blue and green light, which is only really naturally present in sunlight. So what we're doing in today's sort of modern world is after dark, we're taking lots of little mini suns in LED lights, TV, computers, smartphones, tablets, LED appliances, car headlights, the list goes on. And that light is passing through the eyes after dark and basically saying to the body, oh, let's release cortisol. Let's release more serotonin. Let's feel alert and awake. And that's something we really don't want after dark. We want to be winding down and relaxing. And, just to sort of scoot ahead a little bit, when cortisol is being released in the morning, it's fantastic because it's not really a stress hormone. It makes us feel alert and awake. But the reason we call it a stress hormone is if you have too much cortisol and chronically high levels of it, you're going to start feeling stressed. Then after stress comes anxiety and depression. So when we're actually constantly exposing ourselves to light when we shouldn't be, cortisol is constantly being pumped out into the body. And we wonder why, as a population, that we have, chronic depression, anxiety, and increasing suicide rates across the world. It's quite an easy fix. We're just exposing ourselves to too much light, too much blue and green light as well, like at the wrong times of the day.
Yeah, it's fascinating because when you start looking at how the human circadian biology works, you start realizing that we're creatures that run off of light and timing, our circadian timing and all of that. And if you guys are following us on Extreme Health Academy Facebook page, I shared something the other day that, it's pretty interesting. It says blue light lowers vitamin A and melatonin anywhere melanopsin is. Melatonin controls mtDNA autophagy and mitophagy. And autophagy is programmed cell death. And blue light lowers DHA in cell membranes of the eye and skin, ruining the Bayesian effect in the eye. The loss in the skin increases the DHA needs globally. So this is like a cascading issue, isn't it? This whole light piece, man, because people just do not realize how important. A lot of people think like, okay, they've heard this idea that maybe blue light at night is something you want to protect against, and if you can, that's great. If you can't, that's okay too. But man, this is really affecting our mitochondria, and from the people we've had on our show, we've learned that the mitochondria controls genetic expression. And so when you start understanding that the genes take orders from the mitochondria, then you start realizing you can express those genes based on how you can affect the mitochondria. And there's a lot of different ways, isn't there, to affect mitochondrial health, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So many different ways, and so many sort of natural cures and remedies to actually fix them. And what we don't want to do with blue light is overexpose ourselves at any point during the day. Like I'm wearing yellow tinted lenses from BluBlox now because I want to filter out some of the nasty LED spikes that are coming out of my computer. I don't want to block all blue light because I need some during the day to be optimal and make the serotonin and keep myself alert. If I put red lens blue blockers on now like you're wearing, I'd probably be asleep by the end of the interview.
I know, right?
But it's an interesting point you make about sort of vitamin A, and it comes hand in hand to transcribing light and sending the correct signals to the mitochondria ultimately through various downstream processes. But if we're destroying vitamin A in the eye through overexposure to blue light, we're gonna have a hard time actually translating things like sunlight down the line as well, because we're going to destroy all the translation vitamin A in your eye, and you're going to lead to also major degenerative issues such as macular degeneration, digital eye strain, just on the sort of basal level really, and you can go even further into it that rightly you mentioned the that sort of melatonin and melanopsin. So melanopsin is a transmitter which is located in the brain, in the eyes, and in the skin. And what that does is that actually takes photons that are just sort of generally packaged up from any light source, and it then translates them through to various areas within the body. So what you find is that when you get exposed to excess blue light and green to a certain extent as well, those melanopsin receptors are actually going to get damaged along with the vitamin A. So you're going to have then a hard time translating the light signals, which is going to mess you up, mess your body clock and your circadian rhythms up, and actually throw your hormones out of whack. So you're going to lead to sort of hormonal diseases such as depression, anxiety, stress, but also mitochondrial diseases, like the overexposure to blue light in various studies that we've blogged about recently, and actually Jack Cruz shared my last one on is insulin resistance a disease of light, in so much that 3 or 4 recent studies have actually shown that just 2 or 3 nights of excess artificial blue and green light exposure is actually causing insulin resistance in people. So you could be eating any sort of diet, but it won't have any effect on your health and sort of weight, I guess, because insulin will regulate weight. If you're sat in a chronically artificially lit environment all the time. So it's it's really interesting that we're starting to really discover what melanopsin is doing, because until sort of, I think 9 months ago, we thought it was only in the eyes, and now it's in the fat cells, it's in the skin, it's in the brain. And there was a really interesting study that came out probably about 6 months ago, which actually showed that sunlight in the morning and exposure to that on your skin actually reduced leptin and also reduced fat lipid particle size. So what that means sort of to the listener is that if you're actually, well, it means 2 things. If you eat your biggest meal during the day, you're less likely to store any of that as fat, because the sunlight's having that positive effect on melanopsin and fat particle size. But also, if you're wanting to exercise, you should be doing it outside and not under artificial light. It's just so interesting that the times of day that we exercise, the times of day that we eat, all also influences our circadian biology as well.
Yeah, it is. It is fascinating. I don't know if you saw in I've seen you've been working out a lot lately, which is pretty cool. And I don't know if you saw on my Instagram the other day, I put, I was forced to sort of work out in the garage at night, and I had no other light. And we have these incandescent or these fluorescent lights that are it's basically blue light, what we have in the garage. So I brought my red light device out and I put that in the garage, and I just worked out under red light because it was like 10 p.m. And I usually like to get my workouts done in the daytime, but man, it's so important. Talk a little bit about like the photoreceptors we have in our skin, because when Dr. Cruz was on our show, that really opened my eyes to understanding, like right now I've got this fake light on me, and I theoretically should be covering my skin right now. But talk a little bit about the photoreceptors in the skin and how it's important to cover up your skin from this artificial alien sun blue light that we're all exposed to every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And skin in the game, as Jack calls it, is very important. And it's something that's actually relatively sort of new in terms of being proven scientifically. Jack's typically ahead of the 8 ball on these things, and has been talking about it for a long time. So it's just good now that I'm very much evidence based in my approach. So it's good to have some data to actually back up what Jack's been talking about for so many years. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier about melanopsin. So when let's talk about the eyes for a minute. So when melanopsin is concentrated very heavily in the eyes, and when light hits it, it then translates signals to the brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, to actually release specific hormones, do different bodily functions, and for us to be optimal in a nutshell. Now, until recently, we thought that melanopsin was only really present in the eye. So everyone wore blue light blocking glasses and blue light glasses during the day, which was great. But then it's come to light that melanopsin is actually in the brain and in. So what that means is that when light, whether it be from sunlight or from artificial sources, hits your skin, it can have a similar effect to light passing through your eyes. Now, there's been quite a few studies in the past that have actually shown that blind people still have circadian rhythms, and it was really sort of back when those were released, which was years ago, when we were starting to think maybe skin does have some sort of photoreceptor capability, because these individuals are blind, and I guess my thought process was it was still passing through the eye, just through the eyelids. Now, what we're doing if we're exposing our skin to blue light is in essence similar to what we're doing to our eyes. So the eye is the main source. Don't get me wrong, it's the primary source of light passing through. But when we're exposing our skin, we're having the same issue, which is destroying melanopsin, which is the photoreceptor within the skin, which is then going to have a hard time later on in life then translating the light as a photoreceptor into endocrinological functions within the body. So what you actually want to do is you want to be covering up, specifically after dark, because that's when it's going to have the most effect. Because if it's going to hit your skin, you could be wearing blue light blocking glasses, but you're still going to have an issue. Sleeping, you're going to be damaging your mitochondria and ultimately your melanopsin. Now, what I tend to do as a hack for this is, after dark, there is no LED, blue, green, white lights in my house. I guess the only light bulbs I stock are, like you were saying, the incandescent reds, some halogens where I can't get incandescence but only giving out red light, and also I use red light sort of panels as well, like Juve and Gemba Red and those, to really sort of soften the effect of the blue and green light that could be emanating maybe from my TV if I want to watch something on the telly. But typically I will just have a hoodie on, put my hoodie up over my head, typically wear a jumper with long sleeves, and if you're having sort of thyroid issues, you really don't want this part of your body exposed at any time during the day, because blue light is going to influence that as well. And you've got the Hashimoto's and things like that can be affected by blue light. So you might want to do that top button up and really sort of protect yourself in that way. I mean, I'm not in too much of an issue right now because I have Iris software on my computer. I'm sat next to a window, the sun's shining in. I've just got my glasses on really as a precaution. So there's very minimal artificial blue and green light, smashing against my skin right now. So it's really contextual. You've got to really look at sort of your own personal environment. Because if you're just sort of a run-of-the-mill standard sort of person living in the US, and your lights are all LED and they're on, and your TV's blasting out, you haven't got Iris on your computer, then you're most at risk. But if you're sat here with Iris on your computer screen, sun coming through the window, you're generally going to be okay during the day. Not to worry too much about the skin. But after dark is when it's going to be a real concern, because ultimately we're not going to sit in darkness, or we're not going to sit just in candlelight. People are going to want to watch TV. People are going to want to use an appliance like a dishwasher maybe, or other appliances that have LED lights on. And you've got other big major problems as well, is if you don't have blackout curtains, you've got the outside influence of blue light, like street lights and car headlights, and even some sort of foolish neighbor that seems to have their lights on till midnight every night, shining through your window. So you've got to look at it from all angles. But yeah, ultimately it is an issue, but it's easily preventable.
What I was just thinking about recently, and I just learned about, was that in our circadian rhythm of sleeping, oftentimes when we reach that deep sort of REM state of sleep, we reach that multiple times throughout the night, or at least we should. And what happens during that time is that we will open our eyes, sort of like, when you see a dog sleeping and they're kind of, or a baby, their eyes are sort of half open. So when you reach that state of deep sleep, your eyes are actually opening. So if you do have artificial light in your bedroom, your eyes are getting exposed to that kind of frequency of light, which is another reason to wear like a eye mask or something when you sleep, right?
100%, yeah. I typically wear a silk eye mask, just because it's my wife tells me it's good for my skin. So
there you go.
But also it avoids the synthetic materials and the sort of cheap plasticky nonsense that's available out there. So yeah, that's a really good point. And that goes back as well to the insulin resistance sort of brief we were talking about earlier. In, there was another study that was released that actually showed that even if people blocked blue light, before they went to bed, then went to sleep, but were exposed to just a small lux of blue and green light after dark when they were actually asleep, they still was actually, the results showed that they had more insulin resistance than a controlled group that slept in total darkness. So, we've got to make sure that not only are we wearing the red lens blue blockers after dark to completely block blue and green light to 550 nanometers, like at nighttime we've got to be very cognizant to the fact that that light will disrupt our sleep patterns, and you're right in saying that we go through various stages of sleep, and if we disrupt any of those, we're going to again throw all our hormones out of whack, our circadian rhythms out of whack, and really have some really bad mitochondrial diseases later in life. And there's some easy hacks for it. You just gotta, I moved into a house where there was an alarm system put in, and the little box in the top corner of my room is just like literally pulsing out this like blue light all night, and I was just like, what is going on with this? And I'm not an electrician, and I didn't want to rip it off the wall even though I really wanted to.
Right.
And I was playing around with the box and I couldn't get this thing to turn off, and managed to switch off the actual alarm, but this light just wouldn't go out. So I got some sort of black duct tape and just covered it over. It's completely blocked. So that was the good hack there. Sometimes in the night I need to get up, go to the bathroom if I've drunk a lot of water. So I've installed red lights in the bathroom, so if I get up I'm not blasting my body with blue or green light. I've got blackout blinds because there's a street lamp across the road, and I'll be done for vandalism if I'm throwing stones at that, trying to break the LED light in it. So and I don't want to do that. I wear the silk sleep mask. I was fortunate enough to get mine from a real sort of like holistic shop in Fremantle in Perth, which was really nice. So I wear that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, nice and silk.
Yeah.
And then I'm in total darkness then, and none of the light is going to influence me from outside or from inside. And it's important as well that we also learn that winter months in particular, because obviously we're in winter here in Australia, that the sun isn't rising until say 7 a.m. at the moment, but I'm wanting to get up. My natural circadian rhythm has me up about 6 a.m.
Okay.
So it's very important not to switch on an LED light or start scrolling through your phone at that time, because the power of an LED light in terms of how much blue in relation to sort of red and other colors are in that spectrum, which is on all backlit devices, actually is probably most equivalent, and I'm not comparing this, I'm just saying it's sort of most similar to midday sun. So what we're doing is, if we're waking up in the morning and just exposing ourselves to artificial light, we're going to get something called phase shifting, which is our body basically misses out that whole important spectrum of infrared light that we're going to get from a sunrise, and takes us straight to midday. So we're going to actually fall asleep later on in the evening, and slowly, progressively start waking up later and later, which is not what we want. That's going to throw us out of whack. So, we've got to make sure that if you're getting up early before the sun rises, you need to be wearing still your red lens blue blockers, if you're going to be on your phone, or if you've got LED lights. And then you want to be taking them off once the sun starts to rise and you're actually going to witness that sunrise. And that way you can prevent something called phase shifting, which is going to really impact you as well. So, it's a little bit more complicated than just sort of let's stick on yellows during the day and stick on red lenses after dark. We've actually got to wear them in the morning as well if, we're up before the sunrise.
Yeah, it's a whole strategy, like when you start thinking about how the sun, and you want to mimic the sun indoors as much as possible. But for me, I've been just wanting to get outdoors, like just the more I'm learning about light, the more I'm realizing that I need to figure out a way to work outside. I've even been talking to Kate about how could we sleep outside? Can we get like a yurt, or can I camp? or something, and like be more connected to the earth, because this light thing, you know, who is his name? Dr. Doug Wallace, who is referenced a lot by Dr. Cruz, I think he's going to win the Nobel Peace Prize, I guess. And, you know, he does a lot of work in mitochondria. And he says that 85 to 90% of all diseases are mitochondrial-based diseases affected by light. And he's arguably the world's leading authority on mitochondrial health. And he's saying that the majority of diseases that we have today, the chronic degenerative diseases, are affected by the mitochondria, which are controlled mainly by light and heat and temperature and vibration and all of that. And so when you start really getting into this, man, I'm like you. I go into my garage in the evening, and Kate asked me, hey, can you grab something out of the fridge in the garage or something? And I'll say, yeah, sure. And then I'll go and I'll put on like a flannel to cover my skin, and I'll put my blue blockers on. I'll go, even if it's only just for like a minute, but it's so important, right?
Yeah, that's all it takes. You know, you don't need to be exposed to the light for, you know, X period of time for it to start taking effect. You know, it takes effect immediately. You know, we all know the speed of light, you know, and that's how quickly it will translate in the body. And you're doing the right thing. And you know, what sort of, I guess not annoys me, but I guess it ticks me off a little bit, is when people comment that, you know, they just say like, oh, you're you know, you don't need your glasses, they're like redundant, you don't need them, like everything has a blue light filter app on it these days. And you know, my reply to that is, okay, well, what application that filters blue light does your fridge run off, or your TV, or your appliances, or your car headlights? You know, it doesn't. You know, it's naive for people to think that it's just a smartphone that's causing the problem, and the apps are going to sort that out. And you know, it's just to come onto the apps. You know, like Apple's night shift mode. Again, there's a study out there. I've blogged about it. I can link it to you guys if you want to read it. That actually shows that it does nothing. It doesn't even block enough blue light to even have any kind of effect on melatonin after dark. And I actually have a hack for phones, and this is actually a EMF protection, sort of military grade case as well, which is really good. So it blocks all sort of signals coming out my phone. So this is it just on night mode. So as you can see, it's fairly still fairly light, but I've got a little hack where if I press this button 3 times, look at the color of my screen now. It's just red, and that completely annihilates the blue. And it's really easy to do. And again, I've blogged about it, so I can link that to anyone that really wants to do that. And that's the best hack. So you just can't see any alerts that come through, but that's not an issue. So yeah, I managed to get that on my phone, and that was great as well. So it's just little hacks like that, and it's just being mindful to the fact that, you know, the stuff that, you know, Apple and Android are releasing to actually filter blue light isn't to the level where, you know, your listeners are going to want to actually to do it. It's not going to be enough. You know, it might be all right for the general public that are just starting to learn about blue light, and they're like, oh, I'm doing something good, brilliant, and it takes them down that rabbit hole. But, you know, a lot of your listeners will be well-versed biohackers, and, you know, people that understand that, you know, we need to completely eradicate the blue, and, you know, they're not doing it. And Apple don't know the science well enough. You know, it's like what you were saying at the beginning of the show, people that are releasing, you know, endogenous ketones and, you know, keto bars and things like that. You know, they don't understand about health. They just see a craze that seems to be sweeping the world and want to capitalize on it. So you know, you need to make sure that when we're sort of looking at products and hacks to really improve our mitochondrial health and well-being, that you actually look for people that can back it up with science and can talk about it. You know, there's blue light blocking companies out there, for instance, that I won't name, that are talking about clear lens blue blockers that are blocking all blue light. And it's just, you know, it's just not physically possible. It can't be done. It's just basic physics. You can't have a clear lens that completely eradicates blue and green light. And, you know, and they start slating, you know, oh, you don't have to wear red or amber lenses. And it's just like, oh, you're just missing the point. You've got to be blocking everything. You know, you've got to be blocking from 400 to 550. The literature clearly states that. And not even, you know, all amber lenses block even all blue light, and let alone all green. So, you've got to really partner with organizations that can back everything up with science, and make sure you ask loads of questions. That's how I came on to found BluBlox. I was looking for blue blockers and I was asking questions to all these companies, this, that, and the other, and getting technical with them. And they just didn't want to know. They were just like, well, why are you asking these questions? It blocks blue light. And it's just like, no, there's more to it. So we wanted to, I guess, provide that sort of science backing to everything we do. And, people that follow sort of myself on social media and a part of our light and health group understand that it's not anecdotal, and it's all evidence-based, and there's plenty of evidence out there. It just takes time to find it, and we like to back everything up with what we are doing with academic literature. And I think that keeps us probably a little bit behind Dr. Cruz, because he has a crystal ball given his massive brain, but we like to provide evidence-based solutions to people that want to have the most optimal product.
It also sort of drives me crazy in the natural world, or in the natural health world, is when I see people who are sort of the food gurus and stuff, and I see pictures of them, and they'll be inside not blocking any blue light, and then they'll be outside with sunglasses on, and it's completely the opposite. Outside, like, I've completely given up sunglasses. I sometimes, like the other day, I went to the beach and there's a lot of glare, and I took them just in case I needed them, but I didn't wear them, and I haven't worn sunglasses outside for years now. And whenever I'm inside, I'm always wearing glasses, or I'm always figuring out a way to mitigate that. But I guess this whole idea of light hasn't hit the mainstream alternative natural health field yet, because even in that world, you and I are fringe, right? There's not a lot of people talking about how light affects the mitochondria and how this affects the cell mutation and disease processes. Not a lot of people are talking about this, even in the alternative world, which I think is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's starting to come through. I've seen people like Alex Leaf and Chris Masterjohn start to wear blue blockers. Cole Lenore's started to wear them, but I don't think they appreciate how big light actually is in relation to food. I think their mentality is, it's 90% food, maybe 10% light, and other things. They don't see it as a major issue. And if just to talk about food for a little bit as well, because I'm published on the ketogenic diet, and I've researched that for many years, and had a huge following on Twitter actually, with regards to sort of ketogenic dieting. If any diet, if a standard sort of really overweight sort of American or Australian went on any sort of diet which involved cutting out the crap that they're eating, they're going to lose weight. It's a fact of the matter. It doesn't matter if they're sat under whatever light, they're going to lose weight, because they're so grossly overweight that even just changing up and eating bread and nothing else, you'll lose. But ultimately, what they're not seeing is the health aspect of doing that. Yes, that can take you so far, and keto took me so far. Like I was 185 pounds at my heaviest, and I'm now about 150 pounds, and I was about 145 at my lightest, and that's still fairly okay for me. I'm not that tall, but it took for a couple of years. It was great every week, losing weight, brilliant. Didn't care about light, whatever. Two things that really got me was I was always getting ill. I was always getting niggly little muscle strains and injuries when I was working out in the gym. And I just wasn't sleeping. I just was not sleeping very well. That was when I started to look at light and correcting my environment. And I sleep so good now, and I never get injured when I'm working out. I'm outside most of the time. Sometimes I'm in a gym. It's just inevitable. You've got to be in there. But I wear my glasses and cover up as much as I can. And I don't do it after dark. I do it in the morning, after I've seen the sun. I feel like I've got so much more energy. Like my diet is still pretty much the same. It's still fairly ketogenic with some sort of carbohydrate in there now and again. I'm not as anal with it. And I find that once I got my light environment and circadian rhythms functioning properly, what I was doing before, which was really meticulously counting out everything I was eating. I didn't have to do that anymore. I just ate. I just felt hungry. Then I didn't feel hungry, and everything just came so naturally to me. I felt like I needed to eat a lot in the mornings when I was outside, and I don't eat anything after dark now because it just disrupts my sleep and is more likely to cause fat gain in the evenings. And it's just incredible when you actually start looking at light. The diet almost comes secondhand, and I'm not advocating eating anything. I still think you should eat seasonally and whole foods. But I think you can have much more of a better time. Like if, for instance, I want to go out with friends, and I do so probably once a week, and have a meal of something that is completely really not good at all. Like I want to go out and like we go out and have a burger, or we'll go out and go out for breakfast or have something like that. Whereas when my light environment wasn't right, I would eat that and I would balloon, and amount of sort of like how I'd feel terrible, awful. Whereas when my light environment is right, I have that sort of one cheat meal, as you would say, once a week, and as soon as I'm out in the sun the next day, I feel fine. I'm not piling on the pounds. So there's got to be something to it there that you get your light environment right, and you don't really have to worry too much about having that cheat meal now and again and being that religious. If that's something you want to do, I'm not advocating doing it. It's just something I do from a social perspective. 99% of my meals are whole foods and ketogenic. But what they don't, going back to the original question, what they don't understand is how light really impacts hormones that then regulate how macronutrients are then partitioned. We talked a couple of times about insulin and how when you actually look at when you look at it from a body clock point of view, we have a master clock, okay, which is located in your suprachiasmatic nucleus, but you also have peripheral oscillators, which are like peripheral clocks, and they're located in all the cells in all the bodies. And you have a clock in the liver, and you have a clock in the pancreas, and everywhere else. And the way artificial light affects basically the liver and the pancreas is that in the morning under sunlight, they're going to be optimal and functioning optimally to actually produce the right amount of leptin, ghrelin, insulin, and those types of hormones that would regulate hunger, appetite, and how you partition carbohydrate and glucose. But the chronic exposure to the blue light, if you start actually eating your dinner after dark under intense LED lights, you're going to be more insulin resistant. Your leptin levels are going to be higher. Your ghrelin is probably going to be higher as well. You're going to need to eat more food, and it's actually food timing that actually entrains peripheral oscillators, not just light. So you've got to look at not just light as an entrainment of these clocks, but even taking it one step further and kind of speaking to the food gurus and telling them that you can eat your 6 meals a day and get good results, but ultimately you're going to be destroying your mitochondria and causing things like diabetes. I mean, you only have to look at a good example being British is Steve Redgrave. So Steve Redgrave was an Olympic rower, and he holds the record. He won gold medals in the rowing in 4 consecutive Olympics. So over 20 years, he won gold in every Olympic sport, and he trained outside literally every day. He ate, I think it was 10 to 15,000 calories a day, and he was always ripped because he was outside training. He was never in a gym.
Wow.
When he retired, he actually started working out indoors. He continued to eat a similar diet to what he ate while he was training, albeit he reduced the calories, and he's now diabetic. 10 years after he retired, he developed diabetes. And, people may say, oh, maybe it was his diet throughout the whole time. But, he changed his pattern of, he was so fit, so healthy, he was ripped. He trained outside, and he moved that training inside to a gym, didn't get outside hardly any time at all. He even reduced his calories, and now he has diabetes.
It's amazing. It's really amazing how important this light thing is, and there's not a whole lot of people talking about it. And I really want to bring on as many guests as I can to our radio show, because in my opinion, after doing, this is episode 589, so it's close to 600 shows, and I've listened to podcasts for the last 15 years. And in my opinion, the 2 biggest, most important aspects of health and longevity and disease prevention and optimal living is spiritual growth and light, and understanding how, from a spiritual perspective, we cause disease by the different soul contracts that we come into this world with. And we use these to grow. But then from a physics, that's sort of like the invisible aspect of health, like the spiritual, emotional work that needs to be done with every underlying health condition. And then you start moving closer down into the world of physical reality, and you start getting into physics and photons and electrons and protons and all these things that are sort of dance in between the spiritual and the physical. And that's where the light piece comes in. So in my opinion, after doing this many shows, the physical or the spiritual and the light piece are the two most important aspects of health. And food is like way down on the list for me now. Learning what I've learned over the last probably 5 years since we've been talking to Dr. Cruz and other people like him, man, it's massive, this whole light thing. And people are just starting to figure it out and wake up. And I'm super stoked to have you on the show to help enlighten people in this way, you know?
Yeah, it's an absolute honor to be on, and there will be more of us that come out and start talking about the implications of light, and for anyone that wants to learn more about this, we have a group on Facebook called Light and Health. So feel free to swing by. I post there every day about certain things. Most recently, actually, about pain threshold, and people that are exposed to more artificial blue and green light actually have lower tolerance to pain than people that actually get out and are in the sun more. So there's some really fascinating studies that are coming out daily. I mean, I have alerts set up on National Institute of Health to be able to PubMed and things like that, to be able to actually get the studies and translate them to everyone as quickly as possible. So we're getting the information as quickly as we can. And it's so true what you say. Food is really second hand and redundant. Once you sort out light and look at the spirituality, the light, your environment, and actually reconnecting with nature, how sort of little you need to actually think about food. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been through this as I have, of downloading food apps and counting every calorie, weighing food out. It's just monotonous. You shouldn't be doing that. I mean, what other creature does that? Like, no one. And what other creatures are obese? None. The only creatures that are obese are humans and our pets that live in our blue lit environments. It's ridiculous. My dog, for instance, and I know you have a dog as well, and I'm sure you do the same, is that he is literally outside all the time. He wants to be outside. He scratches at the door to go out. And during the day when I'm actually away from the house, I put him outside, rain or shine. He loves it. We've got undercover areas so he can, seek the shade or get out of the rain. But, he doesn't get fed any Western food. Here, raw liver and meat and, some veggies if I've got any left over. And, he's just ripped. He's absolutely shredded. And, he's not eating processed food, but he's not sat under, artificial light constantly. And, you've got other people's pets, and I've digressed a little bit here into animals, but it's just interesting. Like I've got other friends that have dogs that follow an ancestral diet of what a dog would eat, scraps of meat and all that kind of stuff. Yet they're still going to the vet with their dogs every year and having teeth removed for gum disease. Now tell me how that works. My dog eats the same, but he's outside all the time and he doesn't have gum disease. Whereas they've got these dogs eating pretty much what I'm feeding my dog, and they're developing gum disease because they're never outside. They go to work and they keep them shut indoors with the lights on, the TVs on, and it's just it has to be light that's doing that.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you start learning about how important it is to be outside. Like recently I was learning that about the Schumann Residence and how that is, 7.34 hertz, which is the exact resonance that the human brain vibrates at. And so the Schumann Residence is in between the crust of the Earth and the ionosphere, and that is the electrical magnetism that you're being exposed to from the vibrations of the Earth that are in direct attunement with your brain. And then you're learning about the grounding of the Earth, and then the fresh air, and then the sunlight, and you start realizing, man, like, how do I get my solar panel outside? Like, how do I get as much and absorb as much D3 and all the 1,500 different wavelengths that are in the sun, or more? There's even more wavelengths and frequencies in the sun that we're not realizing. And you start realizing, man, we just got to get outside more and indoor less. And when we're indoors, we've really got to dial in the light environment and figure out, like, how to eliminate our exposure to these EMF and non-native EMF and light frequencies, and we got to get all that dialed in. But the ultimate fix for that is just spending more time outside and figuring out how we can do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key important part that people tend to miss. They seem to think that slipping on your blue blockers after dark all you need to do, and it simply isn't. It's an imperative part of the overall picture. Like, you need them, but if you're blocking blue light but not getting outside, then you're not going to be producing the hormones you need to make melatonin. The neurotransmitter serotonin is what you need to be producing during the day, and you can only optimally produce that by being outside. And it doesn't matter if it's a cloudy day, you're still going to get the effects. You've got to be outside, and ideally grounded to the earth as well. Get your shoes off, get your clothes off if you can. If you haven't got any nosy neighbors and you can get naked, then do it. But you've got to take that seriously, that you've got to be outside, you've got to embrace the sun. And that doesn't mean slap on the sun cream and sunbathe for 8 hours. That's one of the worst things you can do. You've got to be sensible about it. Get that sun cream in the bin, get outside in the morning. And when you're actually exposing yourself in the morning, again, this is all backed up by science. I wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't. When you get outside and expose yourself to the IR light in the sun in the morning, that actually protects your skin against sunburning from the UV B light later on in the height of the day. But the reason we've got chronic sunburn and things like melanoma in various parts of the world is there's lack of data on blue light actually being the cause of it. But when you look at it from an evidence-based perspective, people are doing two things wrong. Our population are suffering from social jet lag. They're going to bed at 1, 2 in the morning or midnight or whatever, waking up at 11 in the morning, and then going out and sunbathing. Their body and their skin isn't primed with that IR light to accept the UVB, which is then damaging our skin. But also, we're slapping on sun cream, which is crawling in chemicals in the first part, which is leading to cancers. But it's also enabling you to lie out and bask in the sun at the wrong times of the day for longer periods of time. So, look at it from an ancestral point of view. Like, we wouldn't have, or looking at other animals, what do they do during the height of the day? They're not lying in the sun sunbathing for 10 hours a day. They're in the shade as well. They're not in direct sunlight in those key hours of the day. I'm not saying avoid the sun. I'm saying be sensible. Like, if you're feeling hot, if you feel like you're burning, then go and seek the shade out. Just use your basic instinct, to do these things. But ultimately, you need to be getting that morning sunlight for that as well, to basically prime the skin to accept the UV. And then you can stay out pretty much as long as you want. So.
Yeah, because that morning sun is where you create melanin, right? And melanin is the hormone that allows the skin to be able to be darkened and accept a wider range of frequencies later on in the day. And Andy, I know you got to leave. We got a couple questions coming in from YouTube, so let me just ask a couple of them that seem to be good. I thought one was really good by I'm not even sure how to say this name, but he asked, do you need a hat or headband to block your pineal gland as well as blue blocking sunglasses? That's interesting.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic question. And that completely relates back to what I was saying about the hoodie I tend to wear in the evenings. So yes, a few people wear like a baseball cap which they can pull the cap down a little bit. You can put a beanie on. I just wear a hoodie just because it's all built into one thing, and you know, I'm just like that. I like just can't be asked to be faffing around, so just hood up. So yeah, absolutely, you've got to be protecting number one, the pineal gland. So yeah, great question. But two, what we were saying earlier, melanopsin, which is your photo, you know, sort of sensitive cells that translate the light, is actually found in the brain as well. So, you know, if you've got a head of hair like me, that might provide a little bit of protection, but you might want to be putting a you know, a hat on as well on top of that to protect the pineal gland. If you're bald, then, you know, that might even be more of an issue. You might want to be wearing your hat then a little bit more often. I wouldn't wear it during the day outside, obviously. But yeah, the most optimal after dark would be, you know, something like this, long sleeves. You can be extreme at putting gloves on if you want. Depends how hot it is in Australia in the summer. I probably wouldn't be doing that because I'd probably have heat stroke. And then, you know, get a hoodie on, get a baseball cap on, get you know, blue blockers on as well, which will just mitigate all the negatives in your environment. But you know, that's good to have as well. But you know, going back to the question, also have a look at your lighting environment. You know, you're not going to eradicate all blue light in 90% of cases. Some people will, and that would be fantastic. I know, you know, someone like Matt Blackburn probably would. But you know, for the likes of the general public, you're going to want to watch TV. So that's fine. Get your hat on, protect the pineal gland, protect the melanopsin in your brain. But also make sure you're taking out those LED lights and putting in your red lights. And you know, you might want to knock on your neighbours' doors and just tell them that you're not opening a brothel or a knocking shop in the first instance, just to cover your bases. But
right. I know, right?
Yeah, no, that answers that, really. I think good question.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think the overall concept of what we're trying to let people know about is when you're indoors, it's like the how do I want to say, when you're indoors, like all of your senses must come up in terms of like, okay, how do I protect myself? So when you're thinking about, I'm indoors, okay, I need to make sure that there's no mold coming out of the walls, right? I need to make sure my air is clean. I need to make sure that my light environment is right. I need to make sure that I'm standing instead of sitting at a desk, or you know, there's no, you know, chemicals coming out of the carpets and all this kind of stuff. When we figure out when we're indoors, we have to really like think about our environment and how to mitigate against that. And then when we're outdoors, that's when the clothes come off, the sunglasses come off, the hat comes off, and all of your clothes come off ideally. But when you're indoors, it's the complete opposite. So people typically wear sunglasses outside, which is the worst thing you could do. And then when they're inside, they let any amount of blue light hit their eyes and hit their skin. And there's some studies I was looking at recently that are showing that skin cancers and melanomas directly correlated with blue light toxicity hitting the skin and all of the photoreceptors. So they want to blame it on the sun, but the sun is our remedy, you know? So it's completely opposite, of course, of what the media is telling you, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely fact, you know, that that the sun isn't really leading to melanoma. And it was funny, just before we came on today, I was actually reading something that Jason Laritson had actually posted on, you know, an article that said, oh, you know, we need to get less sun, you know, we don't need as much as we're getting. And, you know, it's just absolute nonsense. And, you know, Jason's gone through the literature himself. And, you know, I think he was saying that there was, I can't remember how many studies it was, but there was something like 60% of the studies, so 60% of the studies have basically shown that there was no correlation between sunlight and cancer, which was good. Then there was 36% actually showed that there was, you know, a negative association, by which that would mean that, you know, the correlation was negative. So basically you weren't going to get cancer by having the sun. Basically, if you had more sun exposure, you were less likely to have a cancer. Mm-hmm. And then there was like 4% which was remaining, I think, that basically showed the positive correlation. So, when you look at that, like 96% of the studies show either the sun being awesome in preventing cancer or no relationship at all. So why are we going out of our way to avoid the sun? It's just mind-boggling. You need more sun. And Jason makes a good point as well on the same post that he had, and something that I've been talking about for a long time as well is, sun exposure isn't, and the amount of sun exposure you need isn't a right 2 hours a day. Everyone, 2 hours a day, go and get your sun exposure. It doesn't work like that. It's a lot more than the 9 minutes everyone talks about. But you've got to look at things as well. What about your latitude? What about whether you're on the equator? What about if you have black skin or white skin, or somewhere in between? It's my wife is Celtic of origin. She's from Wales, and she needs far less sun exposure than myself because I have Anglo-Saxon skin. It's slightly darker than hers. So you've got to look at it from your own sort of ancestral perspective, as well as just listening to someone saying, right, wear your blue blockers 2 hours before bed, get your sun exposed specific time and for this amount of time, only eat this, only do that. You've got to look at it from your own point of view. Like, what's my heritage? Like, how long do I need to go out in the sun? Let me see. Like, I go out during the morning and get my IR exposure, and within 2 hours of lying out or doing something in the sun, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., I start to burn around 2 p.m. Okay, well, my wife goes out and she can go out at do the same routine, but only stay out for an hour before she starts to burn. And it's one of the biggest hacks as well, just to sort of digress, that we don't supplement on anything by one thing, and that's astaxanthin. And I believe that Symbiotica actually has it. Matt's company actually has it incorporated within their DHA, but I take it in its purest form as well, which is like a Hawaiian algae that I just take as a supplement. And the amount of sort of glow in my eyes and my skin and the tolerance to the sun actually increases. It's bizarre. It really has such positive effects on actually being able to be outside for longer as well. And when I do burn, when I was always chronically under blue artificial light and eating a terrible diet and not really knowing anything about holistic health, when I used to burn, I used to blister, I used to peel, and used to be in a lot of pain. Whereas now when I burn, it's a little bit sore for the evening, but then I wake up in the morning and I'm brown. It's baffling. It really is. Like, when you actually sort yourself out and circadianly speaking, if that's a word, you really do the same things that you were doing before, like the amount of time being outside in the sun without sun cream even. And yeah, I burn and go pink, but hey, that shows it's working,
Yeah, no, that's great. A lot of people don't know that you are the man behind BluBlox.com, and you've probably seen, I wear your glasses everywhere, man. As you probably saw and we just had birth of our twins. And by the way, Kate says thank you so much for sending us a card in the mail. Like, that was amazing.
No worries. That's not a problem at all. No, we thought of you guys and wanted to send something over.
That was so cool. We just couldn't believe we got something in the mail from you. That was so awesome. But as you probably saw in the Instagram photos, we were in the hospital for a few days, and I didn't go any time without my glasses on. And right now it's about 7:30 at night, so I think it's about time for me to change. And I can't even not have my glasses on. Like, I just took them off for a second, and it's like the amount of blue coming off the screen is just it's unbelievable. And you're doing some cool things with BluBlox, man, and I'm super happy to support you. And we have your products in our store, and we're trying to turn more people onto them, and I'm wearing them every time I do a show because it's just critical.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate that. It's vital to let people know that we do build these blue blockers based around all the science. When you look at some of the others out there that are maybe a lot cheaper than ours, it's because they're made in China. They have no quality control. They're no good. They don't block the right frequencies. They block maybe blue light, but they won't block all of the all of the blue spectrum, or even into the green spectrum for the red lenses. So, it's an investment in your health as well with BluBlox. And, the amount of customers that we have managed to get these out to, that we actually provide ongoing support to as well. I mean, what company can you go to that if you have a question about light, or should I be doing this, should I be doing that, that will actually get back to you? And, I'm answering, over 100 emails a day from people that are coming to us just saying, oh, I've bought your glasses. However, what I want to do is, do this in my house. How should I do it? What should I do? I want to change my lights, and where can I get them? And, we're sort of consulting a lot with them as well, which is that sort of aftercare service of, when you're buying BluBlox, you're not just buying a pair of glasses, you're buying, lifelong support in everything to do with light. And if you have any questions, we're always happy to answer them. And even if it's not relating to our product as well, because we have, a team that have, including myself, that have put together reviews of all the science, and we know everything that's the latest things to do. So, we want to give that back as well. We don't want to ever move away from just being like and this isn't bad mouthing them, like a Swannies, where it's just like, just sell, get them out. We don't want to do. We want to provide that after support. We want to send the right messages out to people, and we want to, care for our tribe once they've, come on board and got themselves their BluBlox.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. You are doing some cool things. I'm super. I'm just happy to support you in the work that you're doing. And do you have any other projects coming down the line? Other models, other types of ways of helping people? Like, what are your what's the direction that you're heading?
Yeah, I mean, we're actually going to be releasing our new website soon. And first of all, we're going to have actually Afterpay installed into the new website, and it's going to be a lot quicker, which is good, because it's quite slow, the site at the moment. So Afterpay is great. It means you can grab your glasses straight away and not pay anything for a few weeks. So helps with sort of splitting down payments, because they are quite pricey, obviously being a premium product. But I guess the direction that we're heading in is actually splitting our product line down into we've got clear lens computer glasses, which are great just for a little bit of light computer work. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we've got the reds, which are our Sleep Plus lens, which has been developed to be worn 2 to 3 hours before bed. But in the middle, where we want to go is we want to go into therapeutic tints. So I'm wearing yellow at the moment, which is great for during the day. But the tint is actually been tested against improving seasonal affective disorders. So when you get the blues during the winter, the reds have been tested on improving people's health that have had strokes, that are really sensitive to light at various points of the day. And there's also other different colors of glasses that you can actually wear for different therapeutic purposes. So I think our direction, rather than sort of remaining solely on the blue light blocking and green light blocking technology, we actually want to work on light filtering. Mm-hmm. So, it's actually some studies out there that have shown that some green light is actually really beneficial to some people that suffer from chronic migraines, but only at specific times of the day. So we might create like a green lens or a blue lens down the line that can actually be used alongside our other glasses if you suffer from specific ailments and need specific frequencies of light from various sources in order to improve your symptoms. So we're probably going to look at something like that, which no one's doing. And, it kind of segues nicely into that sort of sector, given that, we are into light filtering, advanced light filtering technology at the moment. And we have really great lab partners that understand our mission as well, and actually understand, even though it took me 3 months to lecture them to explain it to them, they now get it, and they wear them themselves now, which is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing sort of lots of talks for the remainder of this year as well. I'm trying to get out to some of the biohacker summits across Europe, which will be really interesting. And I've also got a big lecture to give in Copenhagen, in Denmark, in September, whilst I'm over there. So I just want to keep spreading the word. The products are obviously absolutely essential and optimal. But you know, we want to just educate people as well. And I love talking about light. I love talking about health. And yeah, I guess, you know, for me, it'd probably be a lot of touring and talking to people, and just trying to help educate people on why they need to protect themselves. Well, not protect themselves, I guess, manage light better, because you don't want to protect yourself from the sun. So it's all about managing light, and that's what I want to get out there and really sort of help people. But that's not to say that I'll create, you know, I may create more businesses in the future that relate back to sort of more the biohacking sphere. So yeah, at the moment, probably light therapy and I guess light filtering technology.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that like a product that I would love to have would be like lights that you could have on that emit a low amount of EMF, obviously, but they track the sun. And I don't know how this could be done, but you could have a light inside your house that basically tracks your geolocation. And, you know, when the sun is at high noon in the summertime at 33 degrees latitude, you're looking at 5,000 Kelvin, which is emitting a lot of blue light. And so if that's where your house is and that's where your lights are, all of the lights in your home could sort of equivocate to that. And then as the sun starts to set and go down and more red light comes in, it's sort of like flux where it automatically does it when the sun sets. Yeah. But this would do it on like a minute by minute basis where the sun inside is directly related to the sun outside. And then in the evening, it's all red. And so, man, there's so many different products and things people can do when it comes to light. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that sounds like a good idea. Something that something I might have to look into, to be fair. No, that'd be cool. I'd definitely buy one.
Yeah, I would have them all around the house, because that way you could just, like, if you're going to have company over and you just are kind of over the light thing, you could just switch a button and just have regular light on for one evening, and then you could, you know, switch it back to your normal living, which is tracking the sun all the time. So, Andy, thank you so much for your time today, man. I know you got to go, and you're going to go off to another meeting, and I appreciate your time. And, man, keep doing what you're doing and educating people. It's just awesome. I'm super happy to support you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Justin. Always an honor to speak to you. And yeah, if anyone wants a pair of blue blockers and have listened to this show, then just use the EHR code, and then that'll get you 10% off as well. So you know, I want to give something back to your listeners that have taken the time to listening to my ramblings today.
That's awesome. Okay, EHR, awesome. Thank you, Andy. You rock. I'll be in touch soon, and maybe we can do this again. You know, this would be fun to do again.
Yeah. I would love to do that. Yeah, absolutely. And next time when I've got a little bit more time, that'll be great as well. So yeah, definitely keen to come back.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. I'll let you get going, and I'm going to stay online here for a little bit with people's questions. But I appreciate you, man, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Justin. Take care. Thanks for listening, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. What did you think about Mr. Andy Mant? I'm going to stay online. I've been really diving super deep into this whole field of light therapy for many, many years now, from having Dr. Jack Cruz on the show and learning so much about light and frequency. Man, I've been applying it. And so if you guys have any questions in the chat room, I'd love to see if I can answer any of your questions. Let's see. A lot of people chatting here. Let's see. Jordan Rivera said earlier about, I'm so glad to learn about the extreme importance of proper lighting. Thanks mostly to Justin. Try telling even my friends and family about it. Some get it, most don't. Jordan, I totally get what you're saying here. You know, it's one of those things that people just don't get it unless they need to get it. And you know, it's one of those things where they're going to be forced to understand it at some point. And I think that, you know, people probably think I'm crazy with how often I wear my glasses. When I'm indoors, whether it's day or night, I'm wearing glasses. And if I'm not, I'm doing my best to mitigate the light inside. So something that you all can do is don't use artificial light in the daytime or at night, but if you can avoid turning on lights at all in your home. So if it's daytime, I try to just use the ambient light of the outdoors and open up windows and doors to get that light in rather than turning a light on. Because whenever you turn a light on, that's going to affect your circadian clock, your melanopsin. It's going to affect your DHA levels. It's going to affect your body's ability to regulate hormones and your blood sugar levels. I mean, there have been some studies showing that dirty electricity just from your walls affects your blood sugar levels. So, I mean, this stuff is invisible. These are invisible assaults to our health. And so it's really important. So the sort of strategy that I use is when I'm indoors, like right now, you can probably see I'm wearing a t-shirt and I came over here really quickly. I normally would wear like a long sleeve shirt. So when I'm indoors, whether it's day or night, I try to cover up as much as my skin as possible. And when I'm outdoors, it all comes off. So if I can get completely naked, studies are showing now that there's a relationship between breast cancers and all kinds of other cancers and lack of sunlight onto those areas. And so you want to get, for a guy, prostate, testicles, family jewels in the sun, woman, breast, vagina, all getting in the sun every single day, because there's a difference between getting light like red light, which is really great, emitting photons in that spectrum and frequencies onto your body, super important, but it pales in comparison to to full spectrum sunlight with all of the 1,500 different wavelengths and hundreds of thousands of different frequencies. Dr. Cruz was on our show recently talking about all the different frequencies of the sun, and when you're letting that hit your skin, it heals the skin. It helps set your circadian rhythm. So when you're outdoors, you want to get as much of your solar panel exposed to those biophotons. So if you're indoors and you have to have light, the best and most ideal light you can have indoors, a lot of people are trying to figure out which what do we get for light bulbs and all that kind of stuff. But what you really need to get are candles or fireplace, because those are going to emit natural photons, biophotons from a natural source. And so that's the best kind of light to have at night, are candles and fire. And so super, super, super important to make sure that you got your light situation dialed in. Let me see if there's any other questions. Faki says, do you limit your sun exposure after the sun approaches overhead? Well, that all depends how high up you are. The higher up you are, the more you can accept. That depends on where on the earth you are, how close to the equator you are. And it also obviously approaches or depends on where you are. So there's a really cool app called D-Miner, I think I have it on my phone, D-Minder or D-Miner, that you can get that will allow you to see how much vitamin D3 you're making during the day. And so it tracks your location and what time of year it is, so you can figure out a little bit more accurately how much sun you actually need. So so that really depends on, obviously too, it depends on how much melanin you have in your skin. So the idea is to not get burned. You don't want to get burned. And the way you don't get burned is you increase your astaxanthin levels. You increase your chlorophyll levels in your body. You increase red light therapy to your body before, and then you get first morning sun in the morning. That way you're getting exposed to the UVA that's helping produce melanin in the skin. And so by doing those types of things, you can encourage your body to photo adapt to the sunlight. And so we need to really figure out how we can get more sun without burning. And so it is possible. He says here, scarf for thyroid. That's a great idea. So Nicholas is asking about a scarf for thyroid. Huge, good idea. Yeah, so if you're on your phone, if you're on a computer, if you're on a laptop, if you're on an iPad, any kind of thing like that, and you have blue light being emitted onto your skin, you really want to protect your skin from that. And so, like I said before during the show, there's correlations and studies being done about blue light exposure onto your skin and melanomas. And so people want to blame the sun, but they don't want to blame technology. They don't want to blame computers, because we love computers and we love cell phones and we don't want to give those things up. So that's really, really key, is to block yourself. I should be blocking more of my skin right now than I am, but I'm glad I'm wearing these glasses. I have trees out back under which I sit. I almost never get direct sunlight. I sit outside for about 6 hours though, and I have a slight tan. Do you think that's enough sun exposure? It depends. It really depends. Like I said before, where you are and all of that. But Adam Bergstrom talks on our show. You've probably listened to him about how it's possible to get vitamin D, even being in the shade. I think Dr. Cruz disagrees with him on that, but Dr. Cruz is not God and Adam Bergstrom is not God. But these are, people that are doing a lot of research, and so it's possible to get more vitamin D even by sitting in the shade. So you might consider getting more sun in the morning. And Dr. Cruz says that the most important time of the day to get sun is that first morning sunrise. So letting those frequencies of light hit your eyeball, where you have UVA, UVB, and IR light hitting your eyeball, sets the circadian pathways and the circadian rhythms and your hormone levels for the day. And so what people don't realize is, like, you create melatonin in the morning from the morning sun, but you hold on to it by blocking it, because when you're exposed to blue light at night, you're robbing the body of melatonin, and you're also robbing the body of DHA. And when you do that, the voltage goes down in the body. So the ability for photons and electrons to pass from or over that mitochondrial membrane decreases. And so you have this inability for the body to communicate to itself. So it's really important to make sure that you get that first morning sun. That's super, super critical. Let's see if there's any other questions here I can take from YouTube, and then I'll check on Facebook. The aluminum and sun blocking agents doesn't help anything either, for sure. That's for sure. It's so backwards, man. You start looking at this stuff, it's so backwards. You see people out there every day spraying these chemicals on their skin, blocking the frequencies, the healing element of light on their skin, and then they're wearing sunglasses. I mean, one of the worst things you could do is wear sunglasses outside and expose your skin, because your body's, it's like this circadian mismatch is happening, right? Your body is saying, the photoreceptors in your skin are saying, this is daylight, this is midday. And so the timing of all the systems of your body are trying to work off your eye clock. But then when the sun hits your eyes, you have sunglasses on, so your body's saying it's nighttime. And so you get all these mismatches happening in the body, and it throws all of your systems off. And so when the body can't communicate to itself, then you have diseases, autoimmune diseases, and things like that. So it's really important to make sure to work with light, man. This is huge. Let's see if there's any other questions. Thanks, Andy and Justin. Fruit, especially grapes. Light frequencies are so important, like semantics. Yes. Nicholas, thank you for watching. How about a blue blocking phone cover? That would be good. Actually, you can get, as far as a blue blocking color, you can get, we have, let's see, if you go to, what is that, lowbluelights.com. That's where we get ours. I'm not sure if Andy sells them on his website yet or not, but they're basically covers that you can put over your cell phone, so that you can, that's at lowbluelights.com. All right, guys, I think that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're back on live doing multiple shows per week. So, Kathleen on Facebook wants to know, do they ever work over prescription glasses? Yes, they do. So you can buy ones that fit over prescriptions, and that's a big issue for a lot of people that want to read at night or want to be able to see at night, is they have prescription glasses. And yes, Kathleen, you can get them that go over your prescription glasses, which is really, really cool. So just want to let you guys know that. And go ahead and use the code EHR. It may be EHR10 or EHR on BluBlox.com. I'll put a link. We have them in our store. That way you can get a little discount from Andy on these awesome, awesome glasses. All right, guys. I think that is about it. Let me make sure I get the actual show number for you. So we'll put links to the Symbiotica, to the astaxanthin, to the bunch of different things in there as well. Episode 589. So this is extremehealthradio.com/589, and I'll put the show notes and the links, everything there. And also, I wanted to let you guys know too, if you haven't checked out our Extreme Health Academy, make sure to check that out, because we are going deep, 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 deep on how to heal the body. So if you're dealing with any kind of chronic health condition, or if you're someone like me and you want to live a long, long time in a strong, healthy body, I'm telling you, this is the place for you. Sign up to the Extreme Health Academy. This is where we sort of take all of the principles. Like, I've done a bunch of videos in the Academy on how I mitigate blue light. So videos showing what I do, excuse me, with my environment. And so this is critical. So we're doing courses on cancer, courses on the immune system, courses on the 3 stressors, which is the cause of all disease. We're doing courses on digestion, on heavy metals and hormones. We're doing courses on everything every single month that you all get to vote for. So if you haven't signed up to that, let me give you a code for that. That way you can check it out, learn more about what we're doing there, and you can get access to an amazing community of almost over 1,000 people, all talking to each other and sharing tips and ideas about how they're mitigating their health challenges. So the code, if you want to check that out, is EHR14. So go to extremehealthacademy.com and enter the code EHR14, and you can sign up and check it out, and you get free 14-day trial, and you can make friends and go through the courses, go through the quick tips videos, go through the mastermind Q&A calls that we have twice a month, and the members hangouts that we have twice a month. Those are all live, and doing some cool things there. And we're just getting started with what we're going to be adding to that. So that's an ongoing membership website. So if you want to take your health further, you want to get access to all of that, go to extremehealthacademy.com, put in the code EHR14, and you guys can check more about that. All right, guys, this was episode 589. I will put a link to all of that at extremehealthradio.com/589, and you can check that out and get the show notes of everything there. Love you guys very much. You're amazing. You rock. I will catch you soon. If you have any questions, just email me, Justin, at extremehealthradio.com, and I will do my best to get back to you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse of this information.